You know what name we know? Jihaad Campbell. We know his name. Campbell. And how about this? If Jihaad Campbell wasn't a very good football player, which he obviously is, maybe he would have shown up last night. You know why? He's a South Jersey kid. Timber Creek High School to IMG Academy to Alabama to the first round of the NFL Draft. 215-592-9494. All right, let's talk today about our reaction to this. The Eagles trade up slightly, Hugh. I mean, a very, very slight trade up from 32 to 31 to land Jihaad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama, a very interesting player that I think if you put him in some sort of box, we're probably not doing it fair to him and to the Eagles, right? If you just call him a linebacker, it's not telling the full story.
He's a player. He's a baller.
And if you say he will be an edge rusher, I think he can be, might be, but that at this point is a projection. You know what? I don't know how we frame him. I don't know what we say about him, but I do know this. He was one of the best defensive players in the draft, one of the best defensive players in college football, and I got home last night, I couldn't fall asleep.
Yeah, because you're still processing what we saw. Yeah.
So I was watching a bunch of his highlights, right? And, because obviously we've all watched Alabama games the last couple of years, they're always good, but I hadn't honed in on him, right? So I was honing in on him. This kid's around the football every play. He is a really, really fast athlete, strong, big. Hugh, the more that I dove into him, because last night we were like, whoa, they took him. What do we think about this? Hugh, I love the pick. I mean, I think he has a chance to be a special player. Hugh, your reaction now that we are, about 10, 11 hours since they made this pick. What's your feeling this morning on Jihaad Campbell?
I like it. I like it a lot. And to your point, I went home last night, and I was trying to envision how they were going to use him. And, I got to shout out to Broads. He did the show after ours. And the excitement that he exuded over the airwaves, it was palpable. He's a funny guy, man. So I when he was talking about bringing all the sexiness to the pass rush and being able to do different things, I could see us running like a true 3-4. I know we line up in a 3-4 now, but I could see us being a true 3-4 team. When you talk about Nakobe Dean being out there, because I think how he went out of his way to express that Nakobe Dean is still one of his guys. Now, you can take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I'm taking it with a grain of salt. Well,
you can, because there's an injury history there. But I think that there's an opportunity when I look at the depth chart for there to be four, like with Nolan Smith, Jihaad Campbell, Nakobe Dean, and Zach Bond out there on the field. Because right now, when you look at potentially how it's projected, and what he potentially brings to the table. You have 4, 5 guys on the field at any time that have pass rush ability. And I'm putting Jalen Carter in that mix too, because you're talking about Nolan Smith. We saw what he could do. Zach Bond has pass rush ability, even though he's playing off-ball linebacker.
Sure. Yep.
Bryce Huff. And Jihaad Campbell.
Don't do that.
Maybe Azeez Ojulari, but my point is this. You have guys out there that you could put on the field. You could put 4 linebackers on the field, and you still have a chance. Like, everybody's talking about with Jeremiah Trotter Jr., he might have a chance. He still might be in the play, in the mix for this. Because right now, as I look at this depth chart, right now, on paper, the strength of this team is your linebacking core. Like, those are the guys that, if you had to line up in a true traditional 3-4, that's what it kind of looks like. Now, I know we still have the draft and we're going to get some other players, but as of today, I see Jihaad Campbell on the field when he gets healthy, because, it's one thing. He's not healthy yet, but he's getting healthy. I could see us having 4 linebackers on the field.
Well, a couple of things hit me in 215-592-9494. You mentioned linebackers here, right? It's stunning, the transformation of the Eagles in the last year of how they build their team. I mean, it's stunning. I mean, this is not a pick that the same player, same kid. They wouldn't have made this pick 2 or 3 years ago. They just wouldn't have. And 2 things stood out to me. One, the Fangio influence here is significant. I mean, we were doing the draft show last night. Hugh, we were watching the screen in front of us, right? NFL Network was on, so we could see when they're about to make the pick. And you see the little celebration in the draft room. And then I think the 4 of us last night realized it was defense because Fangio was there, right? Fangio was right next to Howie, and they were all smiles. This is the Fangio influence. Look what he did with Zach Bond. Zach Bond was a journeyman kind of guy, right? A 1-year deal. And he turned him into an all-pro kind of player. Now you get, to me, this is like a souped-up version of that. You get a guy that is versatile like Bond, but he's more talented. He's a first-round pick, more athletic. So I think the Fangio influence is there. I think it shows how Howie has changed over the years. I mean, the Eagles aren't beholden to this. These are the positions we pick anymore. They just pick good football players now. I think it changed with Saquon, and it went to Bond, and now it's Jihaad Campbell. And Hugh, as I watched all those highlights last night, I started to see comps and who he reminds me of.
Who does he remind you of, Joe?
I see a little Navarro Bowman in him, who Fangio had when he was with the 49ers.
He was a hell of a linebacker, man. Now you're a coach. You coach for the Chargers.
Yes. And
he's a hell of a player.
Hell of a player. And let me throw one at you that you may say, oh, wow. I know for me it was, oh, wow. Hugh, when I watched the highlights of him rushing the quarterback, right, when Alabama put him on the edge, he's got some Micah Parsons to him.
Yeah, okay.
The bend around the edge.
Well, he's bigger.
He's bigger, but he's bigger,
but he has that speed, that burst.
Because remember, when Micah came out, people didn't know Micah could rush the quarterback. It was like a projection. It's kind of like this, but the Cowboys obviously thought he could, and it turned into a home run for them. I wonder if that was in the back of Howie's head. Like, look, the Penn State had these guys, and Alabama has this guy, and we could turn him into this. The more I watch this, and the more I see him, the more I love this pick. 215-592-9494. That is how you hop aboard. All right, let's hear that reaction last night to the draft pick of Jihaad Campbell when the Eagles made it at 31.
21 on the big board. Gritty would have been gone a lot higher had it not been for the shoulder injury. He played great all year for Alabama. 117 tackles, team high 11.5 tackles for loss. 5 of those were sacks. Think about this football team, the way Hall of Fame GM Howie Roseman has constructed it. Half the starters, half the 22 are from the SEC. Like those proven entities, those guys who played for the big powers in the SEC. And Jihaad Campbell did, as I said, guys, he would have gone much higher had it not been for the shoulder injury.
Yeah, no doubt. And when you think about what Philadelphia is doing, you think that they re-signed Zach Bond, but a guy who they got off the street last year, who had an all-pro season and deserved a new contract, and now you bring in Jihaad Campbell. It's an athlete, Green. It's another weapon they can add to their defense, which lost some guys up front. They lost Milton Williams. They lost those guys. And so now you add an athlete on the back end, a guy that can roam and make plays in space. It's something to go along with Zach Bond to give them a dynamic duo on the back end.
Well, they have a dynamic duo there, and I agree with what they said. If not for the shoulder injury that he had at the end of last season into surgery this offseason, he might have been a top guy. All right, Ian Rappaport says the Eagles didn't just like him, they really liked him because they tried to get up earlier in the draft to get Jihaad Campbell. Here's Ian Rappaport last night.
Sorry, this is actually Schefter.
Well, the Eagles tried trading up earlier in the draft to go get Jihaad Campbell, and the trade fell through, but they were able to persevere and trade up one spot. A lot of people might ask, why would you trade up one spot? Well, I think it's to block another team from potentially coming up, especially when it only costs you a 5th-round draft pick and you've got 20 picks in the next 2 rounds to use as ammunition. And now they get a player who, as Mel mentioned, could have gone from 12 to 15. He did have surgery on one of his shoulders. He's going to need surgery on another shoulder, potentially after this season. He's got a knee issue as well, but the talent is undeniable, Greeny.
Well, that talent is. All right, so Hugh, that's interesting because we had the report last night as we were doing the show that the Eagles were trying to move up to 23. Remember that story that came out? They were trying to get to the Packers pick at 23.
Yeah.
Green Bay didn't want to trade it. We were speculating on the draft show last night. What were they going up for? Who do they want? Well, Schefter says it was Campbell. So the Eagles sit there, they don't make a trade, and they make a little one, and they get up one spot. I do wonder if Howie had some intel someone was trying to jump over them to the Chiefs pick, because it's kind of rare to have you just move up one spot. They just moved up one spot to get him.
Yeah, and they made that move, and you know what's funny? Because it felt like when they talked about them trying to move up with Green Bay, it felt a little haterish. From on the part of Green Bay. Well, from my perspective, I felt like, with everything that's going on with the tush-push stuff, and then, they get their owner up there, long talking about how great their organization is and all this other stuff, and talking about this the first time we took a receiver in a long time. Mm-hmm. Nobody care about all that, man.
No.
So it did feel a little haterish with that going on.
Well, he also went up there and talked about all the NFL championships they won like 70 years ago. Nobody cares, Mark Murphy. All right, 215-592-9494 for your reaction to the pick. Like it, love it, or do you not like it? As the Eagles take Jihaad Campbell, a linebacker, but I think we could probably talk about him in not just that context, because he's going to rush the quarterback as well. Kyle, what do you think as the Eagles take Jihaad Campbell out of Alabama?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, obviously an area of need for the Eagles. They needed a guy that could rush the passer off the edge, a guy that sort of fills a similar role to, I think, what Zach Bond does. Looks like he might be the heir apparent to Nakobe Dean, or, even the immediate apparent to Nakobe Dean, depending on how severe his injury is. Interesting that he was sort of, I guess, like maybe around like 10 to 12 on a lot of people's draft boards. But, I mean, clearly he must have fell for a reason. The shoulder injury seems like it's a very real thing.
Well, and Schefter also said knee in that cut we played.
So, I mean, obviously a little bit of injury concerns, and a lot of teams did pass on him. But, I mean, like, I don't dislike the pick at all. It's I'm in on it, I would say.
I'm very in on it. I think he has a chance to be a special player. But Kyle brought up something that's real, right? Like, there's a reason he fell, and it's not because of talent. Because I haven't seen one person, like not one expert, that says, nah, he's not that good. Like, they all say he's really good. There's obviously something physical. And I think now the question is going to be, when is he ready to play? Not. I don't think he's hurt immediately. I mean, I don't think he's hurting this moment. But he had surgery this offseason. Is he going to be ready to play when training camp opens, or is this more of like a slow play for his rookie year?
Well, I think with the excitement surrounding him and the immediate need at that position, I think that they feel that he is going to play this year. I don't have anything to base that off of. I'm just thinking about what we lost in the offseason.
Yeah.
And the fact that we already have a linebacker that's injured. That's looks like he had a chance to talk to Ashland last night. Said he's coming along fine as far as his injury is concerned.
Nakobe?
Yeah, Nakobe Dean. I said, yeah, thanks. So I'm assuming he's going to play this year. And I think everybody else is too. I think the Eagles organization is thinking that he's going to play this year.
215-592-9494. All right, today is a day to react with us as the Eagles draft a linebacker in the first round, Jihaad Campbell out of Alabama. Like it, love it, or don't like it? Where do you come down on the Eagles' first-round pick? It did catch a lot of us off guard just because I don't think we thought of him before last night as maybe the way the Eagles view him. So I'm looking at the draft board, and we're looking at the available players, and we see linebacker. I'm like, well, they re-signed Bond. They still have Dean here. They need an edge rusher. They need a defensive tackle, a safety. But the Eagles might view this kid in a way different way than, kind of just putting him in that box